Welcome to webinar Next Gen series by BinaPavo. I am Siti Khadijah, the moderator for tonight's session. First of all, may I briefly introduce to you our guest speakers for tonight. Our first speaker is Dr. Moha Yusof from BinaPavo, an advisory firm for family businesses. And our second speaker would be Azim Azman from Tokenized Exchange, a digital asset trading platform.
Hello.
And our third speaker for tonight is Sham Shafi'i from Pitch In, an equity crowdfunding platform company. Welcome to the session. And without further ado, I would like to invite our first guest speaker, Dr. Moha Yusof, to start with his presentation by introducing himself. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Siti. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is comfortable and cozy, whether at home or at your office. As mentioned by Siti, we'll be talking about investment portfolio in particular, and I shall be giving a perspective from a family business and family wealth advisor. My name is Moha Yusof. I'm the founder and president of BinaPavo, a family business advisory firm where we provide advisory, coaching, training, wealth management services, family governance, succession planning, and other types of services. So as from a family wealth advisory perspective, I always like to look at wealth or assets from three categories. First is personal wealth or individual wealth. Secondly, business wealth or business assets. And thirdly, family wealth. So generally, for each type of wealth categories, you have to look at the personal, the assets minus liabilities. In the case of personal wealth, it is the personal assets over personal liabilities, and that's how you get your personal net worth. And we can look at business wealth or business assets. The net of business assets over liabilities is the shareholder funds, and that will determine the health of the business. Whereby in the case of a family wealth, usually the family assets are owned collectively, and if we put together the family liabilities, then we will be able to determine the family net worth. In all these three cases, it is always good to have a long-term perspective in managing the wealth, and therefore it is a good idea to have personal long-term plan in the case of managing personal wealth. In the case of business, a business strategic plan, and in the case of family wealth, a family strategic plan. So a family strategic plan is something that BinaPavo advocates very much, and it encompasses all the types of services that we render to our family business clients or families of wealth. So when we talk about investment portfolio applies to either personal long-term plan or business strategic plan or family strategic plan. And it is simply the mix of things that we invest our money in. And we are always encouraged or advised not to put all our money in one basket. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And it is always good to diversify the asset classes and also to diversify your investment geographically. Anyway, investing is a personal thing, whether it is for your own self, or for your family, or if you are a business owner, you have to also invest. And usually you invest in business, you invest in purchasing assets. And a lot of times we purchase assets using debt. So that's why there are liabilities and so on. So it's the same thing like if we buy property, uh, not many of us, I think only a few people in this world who can buy properties with cash. Or if we want to buy a luxury boat, for example, so we won't have enough money to buy with cash. So we will go to the bank and apply for a loan. And that's where the liabilities come from, the source of liabilities from the debt financing that we receive from banks or lenders and other financial institutions. It is always important when we look into investment or investment portfolio in particular that we set goals. And usually people invest because they want to make money, generate returns that could finance our children's education. And it can also be that we set a goal of we want to retire comfortably. So it is also funding our retirement. And there are other types of goals. For example, for a Muslim wanting to go to Hajj or do Hajj or Umrah. So that is also a goal. And when we invest, we have to also make sacrifices. We take risks. So taking risks is somewhat similar to making sacrifices. How much of risk or sacrifice are we willing to live with in order to get the rewards or the return that we want? So investment portfolio in general is composed of several things. But before we design the portfolio, it is good to examine the source of income or wealth or cash flow. And we have to take into consideration the debt or liabilities that we will incur. Traditionally, the asset classes portfolio are made up of stocks, bonds, and cash. These are the traditional asset classes that people invest in or that people design their investment portfolio uh, into stocks, bonds, or cash. But for the past decades, we have also uh, financial institutions have also come up with other types of investments in the form of EPF, Employees Provident Fund. That is a forced saving that we have to make, and that is for our retirement in particular. And there is also other types like unit trusts. And this can be considered as safe long-term investments. So there are many types of unit trusts depending on our risk appetite. Then that's where we can choose which is suitable for us to invest in. But these safe long-term investments are almost like savings for a rainy day, for retirement, for emergency, and for crisis like now we are facing the COVID-19 pandemic and also the economic crisis. So if we have investments, if we have made investments before and generate good returns, and that can be used when in times like this, when for example, like when we have what we are facing right now, the COVID-19 and the economic crisis. But the pandemic, the health crisis and the economic crisis also provide opportunities, new opportunities. And into this world, we also have alternative investments that can make money, right? So alternative investment has higher risks, but it also generate higher and faster returns. So when designing an investment portfolio, it is okay, it is a good idea to allocate between 10 to 20% of our assets or wealth into either Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, equity, crowdfunding, forex or commodities, P2P, peer-to-peer lending, real estate, and even investing in our own business. I think many people are thinking of doing business, especially because due to COVID-19, a lot of people have lost their employment. So that is the alternative because we need to survive, and investing in our own business is also considered an alternative investment. And similar to investing in real estate. So later on, our next two speakers will be talking about cryptocurrencies, investing in cryptocurrencies, and also equity crowdfunding. Before we move to those to the discussion on cryptocurrencies and equity crowdfunding, I'd like to get your attention. Earlier on, I mentioned that we in investment, in making investment or in investing, we have to be willing to take risks or manage risks. And managing risk is also about managing uncertainty. And there is uncertainty in investing, particularly when we are thinking about investing or we are being informed about alternative investments, for example, because there's still a lot of uh, uncertainty. Therefore, that's also one reason why we have decided to have this webinar to educate as well as to inform and to reduce the uncertainty. You know, when we have more knowledge about something, then we will be able to manage. That's part of managing risk as well. And I look at risk from a health perspective or from a life perspective as well, where in terms of health, there are 5 types of health that I'd like to discuss here. One is called emotional health, right? How we feel, are we happy? Are we depressed? And so on. And there's another one which is mental health. And mental health is getting to be a very important matter and issue nowadays. For example, due to COVID-19 pandemic, we are seeing a lot more people having mental health disorders. And it has become a major issue, and it is also affecting the way we work, the way we live, the way we interact with each other. Another type of health is spiritual health. And when we talk about spiritual health, it's not about religion. This is about our soul, right? It's different from emotion. So we have to also maintain the health of our soul. And another mm, another factor that we have to keep our health in good state is our physical health. And we are advised to exercise, to make sure that our food and that we eat healthily, that is to maintain our physical health. And last but not least, our financial health. And in making decisions with regards to emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, physical health, and financial health, I always believe that there needs to be a balance between intuition or gut feel with rational decision making. So decision to make decisions rationally, we require aptitude. Aptitude is knowledge and skills, as well as we need information. We need education or training and so on. So if we are able to balance all these 5 types of health, then our life will be balanced. We will live in moderation and so on. I'd like to talk about a scenario of an imbalanced health whereby whereby if we look at our life, it's heavy on physical and financial health, right? And there is a lack of emotional health, mental health, and spiritual health. So if we are too concerned about our physical and financial health, it may cause depression, disorders if things go south. So in the case of investment, for example, that's why it is important for us to be able to design our investment portfolio in a way that there is also a balance between safe investments and alternative investments, because safe investments may generate uh, perhaps not so high returns, moderate and low, but alternative investments is able or capable to generate higher returns. But we have to make sure, like I said, the composition of alternative investment is around 10 to 20%, because we don't want to have an imbalanced investment portfolio as well. And if things go south, that would affect our emotional, mental, and spiritual health. Another scenario is whereby we are heavy on emotional, mental, and spiritual health. So we are more concerned about how we feel. We are more concerned about being peaceful. And I have a friend, a couple who stays in a caravan and they move around. They are staying in Europe. They move around. They do not work. They work. They do some work just to survive, but basically they do not. They are not really concerned about their financial health. So in this situation, it is possible that we are depriving our family and children of basic needs. Right. So I want to also look into generational gaps and differences. And here I'm highlighting 2 main generations. Generation X, where I'm also a Generation X, a Gen X, and the younger generation, which is the millennials or Gen Y. And why I want to look at this is because our generations nowadays, the composition of our population is made up, uh, is made up, majority of our population is made up of Gen X and Gen Y, the millennials.
You have
Uh,
another 2 minutes, Dr. Moha. Thank
okay,
you.
thank you, Siti. So I'd like to bring this to family business and family wealth owners, whereby 70% of total businesses in Malaysia are family owned. And we are seeing that these two generations are the generations of wealth accumulators and wealth inheritors. And this is something and some information that I derive from kasasa.com. Kasasa.com is based in Austin, Texas. But I think the information that has been provided by them is useful because I think there are similar characteristics or character between our own Malaysian Gen X or Asian Gen X and Asian millennials. And if we were to look at Gen X, basically Gen X is perceived to try to raise a family, pay off student debt, take care of aging parent, and these are demands that are putting a strain on their resources. And they have to look at reducing their debt in order to build a stable saving plan for the future. On the other hand, the millennials are the ones that are powering the workforce. But at the same time, they are incurring or facing huge amounts of student debt. And because of this, they are delaying major purchases like weddings and homes. And I see this in my own children. Um, and because of somewhat this financial instability, so millennials choose access over ownership. They would rather have access to things rather than to own them. And they are looking for partners that will help them to make big purchases, to have access to what they want. So lastly, what I'd like to wrap up this presentation with is when we are thinking about our investment portfolio, take into consideration the balancing between emotional health, spiritual health, mental health, physical health, and financial health. So the financial and investment strategies should also involve communication and relationship between parent or child or children. And and it is a good idea also to have communication between advisor and client. And the client can be in the form of individual, business, or family. So communication is key. And with communication, there is cohesion. And in the case of a family business, that's how we can ensure continuity and also legacy. So with that, before I end, I'd like to also highlight how the audience, you all that are listening and watching this is how you can get more information. If you'd like, we have a platform called Space, the learning space. It's on YouTube. And here we have our social media and such as LinkedIn, Instagram, uh, which you can follow in order to get more information, not just about investment, but also other things related to not just family wealth, but also business and also personal development. So with that, thank you very much. And I hand over back to Siti.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maha. It was very valuable and informative presentation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Siti.
Before we start with our next speaker, I would like to invite our participants to key in their names and questions in the Zoom chat and also our FB Live comments. We will have a question and answers session right after the webinar. And if you cannot hear properly, maybe you should put on your earphones when you're asking the questions. Okay, so we would like to invite our next guest speaker, Azim Azman. Welcome, Azim.
Hi, thank you, Siti. Hi, Assalamualaikum, and a good evening to everyone. Am I loud and clear? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Azim.
Perfect. Okay. So I'll begin my presentation. Thank you, Dr. Moha. That was very insightful. Okay, and so picking up from there, this is where I will continue on cryptocurrencies as an alternative investment. So again, the theme for today would be varying your portfolio investments with alternative investments. Right, so a quick introduction to tokenized exchange. I'll be covering on who we are. Is it Sharia compliant? Some of our mission partners, the digital assets that we offer, the platform itself, why tokenize, and how to begin. Okay, so the tokenized management is this. So our CEO and founder is Chi, right? He's a really brilliant guy. He's much younger than I am. He has several years of IT experience. He's an expert in cybersecurity systems and solutions engineering. He's done work for Siemens and also Standard Chartered. So very, very legit background. We've got our CEO, Ms. Hani Rosli, who has 15 years in HR with a couple of MNCs. Our director has 25 years of experience in corporate finance. He is an expert in mergers and acquisitions. And our senior vice president, Ben, who has 20 years in technology and properties. So we started our journey back in 2018, March. We were granted the RMO license by SC Malaysia in June 2019. So we are a recognized market operator. We launched our platform in April. And by June, we recorded the largest traded volume for Ethereum amongst all three regulated exchanges in Malaysia. And as of June 20, we signed up with Solidus Labs to enhance our digital asset compliance. We're based in 3 countries. In Malaysia, we've got the digital exchange platform. Singapore, the same as well, but they focus more on R&D and research. Vietnam does our IT development and support services. So apart from selling or rather trading decentralized digital assets, we also have decentralized operations. Okay, what do we do on tokenized exchange? Basically 4 things. So the primary thing that we do would be to allow our users to buy and sell digital assets on the trading platform. We also allow them to transfer digital assets into and out of tokenized Malaysia to capitalize on arbitraging. We have a digital wallet where our users can store their fiat money and digital assets. And most importantly, we have a continuous education program. So we've got a medium where we deposit most of our articles written by financial analysts. This will be free for anyone to have a look. So if you're in the mood for reading about certain things on digital assets or how the economy is like, you can find tons of articles in here. We have our copy chat sessions, which I host on every Tuesday. This is where we introduce new users on what cryptocurrency is, how to sign up, how to start trading. So if you don't have much knowledge or experience, this is the perfect place to start. We also have our webinars. Mine is coming up soon. So this will be an in-depth talk on specific cryptocurrencies. And then for those who always say that, digital assets or cryptocurrencies are a new thing, it's a bit complicated. We have personalized support. We've got our customer service teams on 24/7. They'll be able to assist you with whatever you need to know about trading and how to do it and so on and so forth. And most importantly, you will always have to check, or rather do some basic due diligence on whether a company is legit or regulated or licensed. So a quick search on SC Malaysia's website, and you'll see 3 licensed and regulated digital exchange platforms, with tokenized technology being one of them. Okay, most important questions that I always get is, are cryptocurrencies Sharia compliant? And the answer is yes. So the Securities Commission of Malaysia's Sharia Advisory Council has allowed cryptocurrency investing and trading on regulated crypto exchanges. So we've got 3. Approval came in on the 7th of July 2020. And here I would like to quote Dato Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, who is currently the chairman of Bank Negara Malaysia's Sharia Advisory Council. So he sees the potential of cryptocurrency in Islamic finance. He says it's very, very bullish, and he promotes the use of it. Okay. Part of being licensed and regulated means we have to partner with industry leaders to ensure security and also accuracy when it comes to trading cryptocurrencies. So we've got partners from Amazon, who manages and services our trading platform. Solidus Lab, Elliptic, Jumio, these are all guys who do onboarding, KYC, and AMLA. These are all global standards who provide KYC services for other banks as well. We've got trustees who manage your fiat money. And we've also got digital asset custodians who hold on or who store your digital asset. So you don't have to worry about, say, for example, you're signing up with Tokenize and then you think, this might be one of those 1 ringgit companies who's going to disappear with my money. No. We just manage the data for you, but we have industry experts who actually do compliance, who store and who track your fiat and your digital assets. So these are part of the regulations as set by SC Malaysia. And an interesting point to note, BitGo also covers insurance on your digital assets for up to 100 million US dollars. That's close to $500 million ringgit. So it's definitely in safe hands. These are some of the excerpts of Tokenized Malaysia in the news. As you may have known, recently Kenanga Investment Bank purchased 19% of Tokenized asset. We have excerpts on SC giving us approval, SC giving us Sharia compliance approval. So one of the things that you can do if you're not sure on whether the digital asset company is legit or is it safe, is simple. Do a quick due diligence. Just Google the company's name up, look up for them in SC Malaysia's website, see if they're in the news, and if everything checks out, then it should give you a sense of confidence in investing, or rather using their services. Currently in Malaysia, we only have 4 types of digital assets which are registered with SC
Do you
Malaysia.
want help, or are you going to do it yourself? Last chance. Huh?
Okay, I panicked there for a while. I thought I needed some help. sorry. Okay.
You can continue, Azim. Sorry
so,
for that.
It's okay. Okay, so there are questions on when are we bringing in more digital assets, or are we going to cover other coins or whatsoever and whatnot. It's not as simple as that, because when SC Malaysia gives you the green light to bring in a digital currency, what that means is that it has to be Sharia compliant, it has to be covered by a certain form of insurance, it has to have coverage by fiat trustees, by digital asset custodians. So it's not just as simple as bringing in coin A, B, and C and then trading it on our platform, because we have to ensure the user safety as well. So we have the granddaddy of all digital assets. We have Bitcoin, followed by Ethereum, Litecoin, and also Ripple. So each of these coins have their own unique characteristics. They each have their own functions on the blockchain network. They each have their own value. So depending on your risk appetite, depending on your confidence or your comfortable level in investing in which cryptocurrency, have a quick research on it, do a quick read, learn about what do they do, learn about their functions and so on and so forth, and then you can trade in peace. Where you can find this would be www.tokenizemalaysia.com. Okay, this is our Malaysian website. We have a similar one in Singapore. In Singapore, it's called Tokenized Exchange. In Malaysia, it's tokenizemalaysia.com. So you have to be careful on which website you are. So on Malaysia, this would be it. You'll be able to see on the website here. There you go. tokenizemalaysia.com. Right? Okay, question on why should I choose Tokenize Malaysia? We have 3 regulated exchanges in Malaysia. For the simple fact that we handle more than 100,000 clients' money and trades on our platform. They trust us to do their trading for them. Well, we don't trade for them, but they trust us to use our platform for their trading. Okay. Right, why tokenize? I'll just breeze through this quite quickly. Yeah? Okay, so first and foremost is that we have a user-oriented platform. It's very, very easy for beginners to use. It's very straightforward. But if you are an advanced trader who you're looking for certain functions or certain things which can allow you to auto trade and so on and so forth, it will also be for you. So for the balance for between new users and advanced users, tokenized exchange platform is quite good. We have information education, as I mentioned just now. It's a continuous program where we educate our users on cryptocurrency knowledge, on trading knowledge. We've got safe and secure, as I said. BitGo covers, or rather BitGo provides insurance coverage of up to $100 million on your digital assets. We have strict compliance levels. We run KYC and AMLA checks. We are regulated and licensed, Sharia compliant, definitely. And we are, most importantly, SC Malaysia approved. Okay, so for those who, during some of my corporate chat sessions where I assist new users and I find quite a lot of, what do we call it, baby boomers, or so to speak. They're like my mom and my dad. So they will tell me, it's so difficult to use. I don't know what is what, trading is new to me. Before I started working with Tokenize, I had zero trading knowledge. The only trading I did was buying goods A and then selling it on Muda or Lelong. This is pretty much quite simple. So we've made it a point to emphasize on the user-oriented guide. I created this desktop and mobile app guide where we actually put in snippets or screenshots of the app itself. So say, for example, if you're not sure on how to sell a digital asset, all you have to do is go to the website, go to the link where you need information from, and then there will be a step-by-step guide to show you how to sell your digital asset, how to sell, how to buy, how to add bank accounts. So it's extremely, extremely user-friendly. This is a sample guide of what some of the steps look like. We are everywhere on social media. Some of our channels include the website. We've got presence on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Facebook group for community support. We've got our email, Telegram, and also Medium. So Facebook, we've got 2. We've got the Facebook page where we usually post our promotions and news and updates. And we also have the Facebook group where it's some sort of a community guide or community support. So the Facebook group is where we have veterans who are experts in traders who've been with us for a couple of years. And we also have new users who've only been with us for a couple of hours. So what they do is we encourage them to just post anything in the group. Answer the questions can be as simple as, should I buy Bitcoin tomorrow, or should I sell Ethereum tomorrow? And somebody will always be there to give you some assistance. You're not supposed to take it 100%. Always do your own due diligence. We always emphasize on DYOR, D-Y-O-R, do your own research. So you can read articles, you can watch videos, you can take other people's opinion, but at the end of the day, you need to do your own research to know what kind of trading and what are you aiming for. That's the most important. Getting started is really, really easy. Just sign up for an account, deposit your fiat money or deposit your digital asset, and you can begin your first transaction, either using your desktop or your mobile app. Okay, so quickly run through the steps on how to start. Of course, number 1 is you have to go to our website, tokenizemalaysia.com. You click on sign up. If you're an individual, you select an individual account. If you're a company, you select corporate account. Some of the things or documents we require for KYC and AMLA would be a proof of address and proof of identity. So proof of identity is, of course, your IC and your video selfie. A proof of address can be a document such as your phone bill, your utility bill, or your bank statement. We just need to know that individual A lives in place A and it's as per his or her IC. So these are requirements made by SC Malaysia to ensure that we adhere to strict levels of KYC and AMLA. And then step 6 and 7, simple as depositing your fiat money and purchasing your first choice of digital asset. It's really, really simple. So this is our Facebook page, Tokenize Malaysia. If you have the time, just head over onto our Facebook, have a look-see. You can gain some information on how trading is like, what sort of promotions we do, what sort of campaigns we run, the things that we can offer. Everything will be here on the Tokenize Malaysia Facebook page. And yes, most important part, if you sign up, or rather when you sign up soon, ensure to use the promo code BinaPavo, BINAPAVO, because this way you will be able to get 15 tokenized points, which is equivalent to 15 ringgit to begin your own trading. So what I always tell my friends or whoever it is, that just try signing up. It's free. You'll get 15 tokenized points at no charge at all. Use that 15 tokenized points to purchase or to test or to try trading. We've got digital assets at different values. You can buy them in different different decimal points. Yes. Okay. So one Bitcoin is plus minus, for example, $60,000. But we don't expect you to buy one whole Bitcoin or sell one whole Bitcoin. You can buy it in 9 decimal points. So for as low as 70, 80 ringgit, 90 ringgit, you can begin trading. Or if you want to just, try to dip your toes into the pool, you can try purchasing some digital assets which have a lower value, like Ripple, for example. Just try buying some with the free 15 tokenized points. Try selling, and there you go. That's your first foray into trading. And if you do require some assistance, we have our WhatsApp numbers down here. My team, my colleagues and I will be more than ready to answer your questions or to assist you. This would be our live help channel. So if you have any questions regarding cryptocurrency trading, how to sign up, just simply WhatsApp any one of these numbers, and the person on the other end will be more than happy to assist you with. So that's it. That's a quick foray into what cryptocurrency trading is.
Right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Azim Azman.
You're welcome.
It was a very informative presentation. I would like to remind our participants to please key in your name and questions inside our Zoom chat, and also FB Live comments. We will have a question and answer session right after the webinar. And if you have any problems hearing, can you please put on your earphones? Thank you very much. And now I'm happy to invite our next speaker, Sham Shafi'i from Pitch In. Welcome, Sham.
Thank you, Siti. All right, so let me quickly share my screen. There you go. Let me go full screen. All right. Okay, so following Prof. Mohar and also Azim, I'll be speaking a bit with regards to equity crowdfunding. I suppose it's probably much more easier to understand compared to cryptocurrency, yeah? Because it's quite traditional. The only difference is that with equity crowdfunding, you don't invest alone, but you invest in a group, right? So there's only difference between what you normally see in terms of investment in an equity offer compared to equity crowdfunding. So let's begin. So just like cryptocurrency, just like digital asset exchange, we at Equity Crowdfunding, we're also regulated. In fact, we were the first product that was released by the Securities Commission way back in 2015. So we're the older brother of the RMOs compared to all the other RMOs. Just like a tokenized exchange, we are also overseen and regulated by the Securities Commission. There are 10 platforms registered by the SC. We're one of them. And essentially, equity crowdfunding is that it allows locally incorporated companies to raise funding for their businesses from the public and investing community. Yeah. So just like what Bursa companies are listed in Bursa, companies who are listed on an equity crowdfunding platform also is raising money and issuing new shares to the public who wants to invest in them. So let's quickly dive into who are the market players. So there are 10 registered, recognized market operators in Malaysia right now, currently. Pitchin is one of the 6 original ones. We were licensed way back in June 2015, together with our friends from Ataplus, Crowdo, CrowdPlus Asia, Eureka, funded by me. Then later in 2018, the SC gave one more license to Funnel. And in 2019, 2 years ago, they gave 3 more new licenses to Etisco, Lead Capital, and MyStarter. So these are the 10 platforms that are available in Malaysia and also registered with the Securities Commission, where companies can raise money from and where investors can invest in companies who are fundraising on those platforms. So the question, why would a company raise money through crowdfunding, through equity crowdfunding? Yeah, this is really, I would say, the strength of equity crowdfunding is that it allows companies to actually raise money from practically anyone. So they could turn customers, clients, users, partners to invest in their company or their startup. And these people or these investors would probably did not have access to them in terms of investment-wise before this. But because it is now allowed and is regulated by the SC, if you love that particular company and you actually have used their product or had used their services, and when you see them fundraising on Pitchin, for example, you can then invest in them. So not only just clients, customers, users, and partners can invest, but the companies can also tap into other investors, retail, angel investors, high net worth investors, plus also VCs, family funds, even institutional investors, and also from the government. So in essence, what it does is that it democratizes fundraising and investing. For the company, when they raise money publicly, what they're doing is that they're magnifying their brand and presence throughout the global community. So you may want to know, so how have we performed in terms of the platform itself? So all 10 platforms have raised money for their respective companies and have received investment from respective investors. To date, nearly $250 million have been raised for 194 companies. Yeah, so not bad for a newly set up industry. Where 4 years ago, this was not allowed in Malaysia, but now we've thrived and grown to help 194 companies. I think in the next few weeks, you will see this number grow to 200, and we hope that before the end of the year, we could potentially then hit the 300 million ringgit number. This is how the platform operators are performing as of last month. Again, all 10 platforms have raised money respectively for companies who went to their platforms. However, there is a clear leader in terms of equity crowdfunding, and that clear leader is actually Pitchin. So we've raised more than 140 million for more than 100 companies. The list is growing. And the type of companies who have been fundraising on Pitchin is not just technology companies, but we've seen F&B companies. Some of you guys may be familiar with Union Coffee. If you go to Wan Utama or go to KL Gateway, you probably have seen them. They raise money on Pitchin. If you live somewhere in Penang, northern side of Malaysia, you'll probably be familiar with Yin Sourdough. They also raise money on Pitchin. So my point is this, for equity crowdfunding, companies can be traditional, can be technology, as long as it's investable. Investors would want to invest in your company. So let me dive very quickly in terms of the essentials of Malaysia's equity crowdfunding framework. First of all, there are 3 important parties in this. These are issuers. Some of you guys may own companies. So if you see this word issuer, it refers to you, the company who is fundraising on an ECF platform like Pitchin. Investors, again, investors are divided into 3 types of investors. If you're an individual investor, you can be either a retail investor, angel investor, or sophisticated. I'll talk a bit more on that later on. And the other party, most important party, would be us, the RMO. So we're the only platforms that can actually host a company that wants to raise money, and also for you to protect your investment. You then should invest in companies who are fundraising on a platform that is registered with the SC. And like I mentioned, I shared with you those 10 platforms just now. So to the investors, again, anyone can invest. Companies can invest, institutions can invest. They could be local, they could be foreign, either they're living in Malaysia or living outside of Malaysia. Anyone and everyone can invest. Now, in terms of individual investors, the SC has divided them into 3 categories. Retail investors. So what the SC is advising retail investors is to invest 5,000 ringgit, not more than 5,000 ringgit per deal, and 50,000 ringgit per year. For angel investors, they are advised to invest up to 500,000 per year. Whereas for sophisticated investors, there is no limit. They can invest as much as they want, as frequent as they want. Now, the reason why these advices are given by the SC, especially for the retail investors, is that they want to protect retail investors from investing money which they may not have, or they may borrow money and later go into debt just because they want to invest in a particular company. So investing in these companies, just like any other thing, is risky. So we want investors to know the risk, understand the risk, so that they can then invest smartly. So for those retail investors, the SC says invest up to 5K per deal and also 50K per year. Yeah. Now, everything about equity crowdfunding is all about protecting investors. So that's number 1 priority. So in terms of disclosures, companies need to disclose their audited financial statement if they're raising more than 500,000. If they are raising less than 500,000, then the SC says you can share your management account. However, if it's more than that, then you need to disclose your audited financial statement. At the end of the campaign, now you may have invested in this company. At the end of the campaign, after the conclusion of the campaign, there is actually a 6-day cooling period. What that means is this: if you have second thoughts about continuing with this investment, you could actually pull out. No questions asked. Anytime, either during the campaign or at the very last 6-day business period, you can also withdraw your investment and you will get your money back within a week. Yeah. The other rule to note is that for companies who wants to raise money, you need to be locally incorporated, either as an unlisted berhad, a senior berhad, or an LLP. So platforms like Pitchin, we have to conduct due diligence and compliance on the companies who are fundraising, not only on the companies, but also the people behind the company. So that's mandated by the SC to ensure that there is transparency in terms of the company who are fundraising. In terms of how much companies can raise money, recently the SC announced that the companies can raise up to 20 million. A few months back, it was 10 million. When we first started, it was 5 million. So the past few years, that number has grown. And now the SC has allowed companies to raise their fundraising to an extent of 20 million. The rule in terms of the fundraising is all or nothing, which means that if you have a target, your minimum target is, say, for example, 1 million. If you fall short, even technically by 1 ringgit, then the campaign fails and all the funds will have to be returned back to all the investors. So they need to reach their minimum funding target. In terms of where your money, what happens to your money when you invest in this particular company, that money does not go straight away to the company. It is parked in a trust account held in a local financial institution until the results of the fundraising campaign is known. So your money is safe. Again, you can withdraw at any point before the 6-day cooling period finishes. But during that period, the money is parked into a trust account in a local financial institution where it is kept until we know the results of the fundraising campaign. In terms of shares, companies can determine the type of shares they want to offer. It could be ordinary shares. It could be preference shares. In terms of shareholders, now if you're a Berhad company fundraising on pitching, for example, there is no worry about how do I put all the shareholders into the company, because under the local laws, under the Sdn Berhad setup, companies can only have 50 shareholders. So if your fundraising does well and you get investments from hundreds of people, obviously we cannot list them into your Sdn Berhad. What we do is that we will place them under a nominee company who will then represent all those shareholders in the company who is fundraising. Now, next thing I want to share with you is just some support system that we have, not just for companies, but also for investors. For companies, this may be very relevant to you. The government has set up a 30 million ringgit fund to invest in companies who are fundraising on ECF platform with the crowd. So what this means is that when the crowd puts in money, for every 4 ringgit that the crowd puts in, the government will also invest 1 ringgit. So the maximum investment by the government can do is 1 million. So in that example, if you're fundraising for 5 million ringgit, what you actually have to do is to raise 4 million, and later the government will then invest 1 million into your company. Yeah. So hopefully this will help companies in terms of achieving their fundraising target, but it works on a 1:4 ratio. The other good news with regards to equity crowdfunding is the tax incentives. This is obviously attractive to investors, especially retail investors. You can now enjoy tax incentives if you were to invest in companies who are fundraising on ECF starting this year. Now, we don't have the details yet. We are still waiting for announcement by the government, and that will be very, very soon. But what is promised is that this year, any investments into any ECF company starting from this year, you will then be able to also then apply for some tax incentives from the Friendly Inland Revenue Board, right? All right, quickly, process in terms of how it works on pitching. Obviously, first of all, there has to be an application, an agreement. Once we agree that we will list you on the platform, the work starts in terms of due diligence and compliance. We will then prepare the companies to go pre-live on the platform. Usually for pre-live, we put aside between 4 to 6 weeks. The whole idea of going pre-live is that we will then attract early investors. To attract early investors, companies would normally offer some incentives in the form of bonus shares. So which means that if you were to invest in this company during the pre-live, you will probably get 5%, 10% bonus shares. Yeah. Now, once the company has raised an amount that they are comfortable to go live, then we go live. And during the live campaign, companies can either go live for 30 days, 45 days, or 60 days, or even longer. However, at pitching, we do advise companies to run their campaign between 30 to 45 days. We observe that the shorter the period, the momentum is much more faster compared to longer period where it becomes a bit sluggish, and it's really difficult to really maintain a momentum if your campaign is too long. Now, if your campaign is successful, great news, you now have money to actually use to grow your businesses. Your money will be received from the bank within 10 to 14 days after the 6-day cooling period. Yeah. At the same time, pitching will then liaise with the company's COSAC. We will prepare all the digital certs where it will be emailed to all investors, and the certs will then also be kept in our digital repository. After that, companies are mandated to actually update your investors either quarterly, half year, or even annual. Yeah. But most importantly, especially for investors, is the exits, right? So we all invest for a reason. We want to make money from our investments. And every company that actually offers an investment offer to investors have different ways of actually offering a potential exit to investors. So it could be by way of dividends, dividends, buyback. They may redeem your shares either in acquisition. So that has happened before. a buyout, potentially another investor, a big investor may buy out those equity crowdfunding investors, and also an IPO. But what will be very, very exciting soon, and we hope to launch this by August, once we get the approval by the SC, is that we will then run our own secondary market. So this will allow investors to also trade their shares or to buy and sell, and then for others to buy the shares of these companies in the secondary market. So let's hope that by August we would have the approvals and we will then be able to launch this. All right, quickly before I finish my presentation, I just would like to share with you two case studies involving two companies which I would probably say the poster boys or the poster companies of equity crowdfunding. Both of these companies are responsible for being the largest fundraise ever, one, and also the other one having the largest investor base ever in Malaysia. So the first case would be Policy Street. I'm not sure whether some of you guys are familiar with them. They are an insurance tech company. They raised 5.28 million during the first MCO. Yeah, the most strictest of MCO where no one could go anywhere. They raised 5.28 million in 5 weeks during that particular MCO. This is the current record for ECF in Malaysia. They raised 1.7 in a week during their pre-live campaign because they offered incentives to early investors. They went live. A week into live, they raised 2.5 million. It rose very quickly. The closing date was brought forward because they were receiving too much money. They had to close their campaign even sooner than what it was supposed to close. So great problem to have if you're a company. Yeah, they help. They help. All right. Yeah, one more slide, then I'm done. So they held numerous virtual private and public events, very consistent marketing to every investor group in their database and also our database. So that's Policy Street. Finally, Oxwhite, they raised also 5 million plus, but they raised it from 485 people, the largest investor base ever in equity crowdfunding in Malaysia. They did this very fast. In 2 weeks' time, they raised 5.019 million. Again, just like Oxwhite, they were very consistent in terms of their marketing during pre-live and also live. And what happened or what translated was that 5.019 million was raised from 485 people. So that, in a nutshell, is what equity crowdfunding is.
Thank you, Sham Shafi'i, for your presentation. And as you know, the participant, please key in your questions because we are about to start the question and answer session. Thank you very much, speakers, for the incredibly informative and powerful discussion tonight on alternative investment. We now go to our first question. This question is from Mr. Vince Chong, and it is for Encik Azim. Right, the question is, I know next to nothing of crypto, but was informed that it's a good investment. Yet I was told it is too volatile. What would be your guidance on this? FD is safe, but with 1.5% interest rates, it is miserable. And the second question would be, would it not be safer and more prudent to put monies into unit trusts or mutual funds? Perhaps an ETF? Please, Cik Azim.
Sure, one second. Sure, thank you, Mr. Vince Chong. Hold on. Right, yes, okay. So volatility, very, very good point. There will always be risks in whatever investments you make. Even in something as simple as crossing the road, there will be risks. So what you do to mitigate those risks is to always look left and right and ensure that there are no cars coming. Exactly the same thing as cryptocurrency. How you mitigate the risks is by reading up, by having some form of knowledge, by Dior. So Dior is what we really, really hold close to heart. So I always tell people, do your own research. Always read your own articles, find good sources to read from. You don't have to have any fundamental analysis skills. You don't have to have any technical analysis skills. All you have to do is a little bit of common sense, a little bit of due diligence, and a lot of reading. And sometimes volatility is not always a bad thing because it would mean a quick buck. So what we usually like to do is arbitrage. So for example, platform A is selling Bitcoin at 200,000 ringgit. So you know it's volatile. And then on platform B, the price is at 220,000 ringgit. So what you do is you capitalize on the arbitrage. You bring in Bitcoin from platform A, sell it in platform B, and you make 20,000 in a blink of an eye. This is just a very, very general example, of course. So volatility can sometimes be your friend. And again, it depends on your risk appetite. What are you looking for? Are you looking for a long-term investment? Are you looking for a short-term investment? Are you looking to diversify your portfolio in a sense where you have something where you can just park and keep it for a while, or something you can do some light trading on a daily or weekly basis? Question 2, would it not be safer or more prudent to put monies into a unit trust or mutual funds? This is exactly what my father said. So he said, ASB, ASB, ASB. And I told him, yes, it's true. We have the perks and the luxury of depositing our money in ASB. It's much safer. But again, the growth, the profits, the investments, depends on your appetite risk. So my father strongly believes in traditional financial instruments. So he sticks to ASB. But when I've explained to him what cryptocurrency trading is, when I explained to him how it works, there are digital assets depending on each individual's risk appetite. If you are afraid, you don't have to do a daily trading. You can start small. If your risk appetite is big, then by all means go all out if you can afford it. But again, I'd like to quote Dr. Moha. He says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You diversify them, you go slow. And like Sam Shafi said, always have an exit strategy. So if my salary comes in at, for example, 1,000 ringgit this month, I don't put all 1,000 ringgit in Bitcoin. I split it, and I always have an exit strategy. So if Bitcoin decides to do a little dip, what do? Do I sell it? Do I trade it? Do I do what? So all this kind of things comes in do your own research. I hope that answers the question.
Azim, perhaps you can explain about the advice that could be given by tokenized exchange or tokenized Malaysia. Is there any platform or support that is given to traders or investors?
Okay. Yes, you're right. Thank you, Dr. Moha. Yes, we do. So, this brings me back to the slide earlier on our continuous education. So we have monthly webinars in 3 different languages: Mandarin, Bahasa Melayu, and also English. And on these webinars, we discuss in depth or further a little bit more on a specific cryptocurrency, or we delve a little bit deep into some form of technical analysis or fundamental analysis. So all these things you can use to trade better, to trade safer, and to make better judgment and better calls. So they may not be as, some say that they will be a bit too technical or my knowledge is not too much. But no, we usually tailor make our education programs to suit somebody who has very little knowledge in cryptocurrency trading all the way to somebody who is an advanced or at an advanced level in cryptocurrency trading. So these platforms you can attend for free, and you can gain some insight, some information, you can gain some support and also advice on how to trade better and safer, and most importantly, how to stay away from all those get-rich-quick schemes that are rampant nowadays.
All right, thank you, Azim.
Welcome.
We have a next question from Mr. Vince Chong. This question is for Sam Shafi'i.
Yes, I'm back. The internet quickly just as I'm finishing, so just thank you. It just died, right?
Right,
Yes,
timing,
it
Sam.
is. Yes.
Right, okay, the question is, Mr. Sam, am I right to understand that to be an investor, there is a high entry barrier, 5,000 per deal and more than 50,000 a year is steep for a lay person, lay retail?
Right. So the maximum investment that a retail investor can do is actually 5K. So that's the maximum, right? So you could actually invest lower than that. But to Vince, it all depends on how much those companies are offering in terms of their minimum investment. So some companies, they do tell investors that I would only accept minimum investment of 1,000 ringgit. So you could come in 1,000 ringgit, or you could come in at more. But if you're a retail investor, you can't come in more than 5K, right? So if a company says that my minimum investment for my company is actually 6K, so what they do is, what that means is that a lot of retail investors will now not be able to invest in that particular company, yeah? So what I shared just now, the 5K and 50K is the maximum that a retail investors are advised to do when they invest in companies. So you can invest more, but it is not advised to invest more than 5K. Yeah, so I hope that clears any doubt with regards to how retail investors can also invest and join in the investment community with equity crowdfunding.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay.
Right, our next question is for Encik Azim. It's from Mr. Aaron Ho. Will SC bring in more coins to local platforms anytime soon?
Oh, this is a very sensitive question in case anyone from SC is watching. No, I'm just kidding. So SC Malaysia is always working with us to bring in more coins, more options. But as I mentioned earlier, the procedures are not as simple as posting it on one of our platforms for trading. Is not, because they have to do a lot of due diligence, they have to do a lot of research, they have to calculate the risks, they have to see where, okay, every cryptocurrency or every digital asset that is created has a white paper, or in business terms, it's a business plan. So there you're listed the function of it, who's behind it, what's where it's going to be in the next 10 years, 15 years, how will it grow, who will adopt it. So all these things will have to be researched by SC Malaysia, by the 3 platforms in Malaysia. And you have to come to a consensus on whether or not a coin is worth bringing into Malaysia, because first and foremost, this is what I heard, or this is what I learned, that SC Malaysia will always put in the investors' priority first. I'm surprised, they always care about the investors. So they're really, really careful in selecting what coins they bring into Malaysia. So in the future, yes, there will be some more, but not anytime soon, or just not anytime soon.
Yeah. Siti, if I could just add with regards to Azim, and again, Azim is also aware of this. Azim, I think once the SC allows or actually license the IEO players, right, the initial exchange offering players, then companies can also then raise money for tokens, and those tokens can then also be traded on exchanges like Tokenize. Yeah,
Definitely, yes.
So I think that's something exciting that both I'm sure Tokenize is also looking forward to. Pitching is also looking forward to a pretty new ball game altogether. Again, giving a lot of options to investors to then put their money, and also for companies who then may want to then raise money, not give equity away, but then raise money and give tokens away, and that the tokens later will can also be traded in exchanges like Tokenize. So I think both of us are really, really looking forward to that. Did you apply? As in, no, don't answer that. Don't answer that.
That was almost a trick question. In fact, when I first saw the plans, I just wish I could tell everyone, but sensitive information. So zip.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. The next question is from Encik Sabri Saleh. It's
Right.
for Syam Shafi'i.
Yep.
Mr. Sam, what is an appropriate valuation method for ECF?
Right. You know what? The answer to that question is there is no answer, right? So in terms of what is the appropriate way to do it, there is none, right? Well, there is. I suppose that what I'm trying to say is that the size does not fit everyone, yeah? Does not fit, one size does not fit for everyone. So it based on a case-to-case basis. I can tell you, Cik Sabri, that a lot of companies actually do a lot of future projections, yeah, because a lot of companies who come on equity crowdfunding is mostly quite very early stage, which means that they don't really have the numbers to use the traditional model of actually valuing their company. So a lot of them are using future projections, and they've been very successful in terms of their own fundraising. And what's great about that is that although a lot of people, some investors felt it was a bit on the high side during the fundraising and questioned whether 1 year down the road, those companies could actually meet whatever numbers they promise. I'm happy to actually share with you that at least at Pitchin's experience, those companies have managed to hit all the numbers which they promised, and therefore whatever valuation or post-valuation which they wanted to get was then justified a year or 18 months after their fundraising. So the short answer to your question is that we don't really have a set of this is it. But every company that comes to the platform, we will look at them individually, try to understand the reasoning behind why this amount of equity is given away, and what really are their plans in terms of their fundraising and how they will achieve whatever numbers which they want to with the money which they will hopefully successfully raise funding from. So yeah, so I hope I've been able to answer your question. But yes, this has always been a conversation topic whenever a company raises money, especially for investors.
Right. Continue to that question. Could you advise, based on your previous experience, what is overvalued or fair for a company to offer investors on the ECF platform?
Yeah, you know, valuation can, to some people has always been very subjective. Yeah, what could be high to you may be acceptable to some. I'll give an example of this company, and because they've been very successful, at the point of their fundraising, this company is called Sales Candy. So those who don't know them, probably you can Google them. It's a CRM software, an app that helps the sales team in terms of executing any funnel that comes to their site. So the company is called Sales Candy. Yeah? When they came on pitching, they were just a 2-month-old company. The product was not even done yet, right? They just have a prototype, a very fancy PowerPoint deck, and they raised 1.5 million ringgit on a valuation of 10 million, right? Now, for any normal investors, that would be tremendously high, especially for a product which is not available yet, have not done any sales, and yet they're asking for a 10 million ringgit valuation, right? So obviously at Pitchin, we were also blown by the fact that the company wanted that kind of valuation, but they argued their way in terms of how they would justify it. And again, it's all about future projection. Now, we wanted to test this out. Again, the founders were very good founders. Again, our due diligence and compliance, they passed with flying colors. So there's nothing wrong with the founders and the company, but the valuation was too rich for a lot of people to stomach. Having said that, within 45 days of us helping them, pitching to various events and whatnot, they raised 1.5 million. The amount which they wanted to raise, they raised it from 56 people, right? Now, 10 million ringgit valuation on a piece of paper to a lot of us in Malaysia would be very, very high, very, very rich. Not many would actually bet on that, but 50 plus people bet on it. 1 year after they fundraise, the business or the company is now available in Singapore, in Manila, in Jakarta, in Thailand, in Bangkok. They raised another round from Wavemaker, a VC in Singapore, after their fundraising on Pitchin. They are now currently valued at around potentially 50 to 60 million ringgit, which if you're an investor in Souls Candy 2 years ago, your investments have now, on paper, have now gone up between 5 to 6x, right? Now, as what Prof. Moha mentioned, this kind of investment is risky. Those 56 people, you know, Prof, we could probably tell them they are probably one of the bravest people in Malaysia, right? To put in money in a company with just nothing but a valuation of 10 million. But now, 2 years down the road, or 2.5 years down the road, on paper, these guys have made at least 5 to 6x of their investments. Yeah. So to answer your question, whether this company is overvalued, to a lot of people it is overvalued, right? But to some people who actually invest in them because they understood the vision, they know that these founders are credible, that particular investment right now does not seem very expensive. In fact, you could argue it is fair, right? So at in the end, my point is this: it's very subjective. Now, we can back some of these arguments with numbers, but if those companies fail to deliver what they promised to deliver after their fundraise, then again, that valuation, even when it was very attractive, may then not look attractive anymore if they fail to execute whatever plans they have. So for me, I always tell people that ask yourself, what's your risk appetite? If you think that risk is too high for you, then my advice is not to do it, right? And I think it's the same advice that we've heard from Prof. Moha and also from Hazim too, yeah?
Yeah, I agree with Sam. I concur. Because valuation is just one indicator, one criteria. There are many other criteria that should be taken. And I think an important criteria is the aptitude of the management team, right? Because I think the team will determine the likelihood of the success is much more influenced by the ability and competencies of the team rather than the valuation strategy.
Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Sam, for the detailed explanation from Encik Sabri Saleh.
Thank you, Sabri. Hopefully we'll see you soon, either as a company or an investor on Pitchin. And also tokenize. And also tokenize.
Yes, do we have another question, participants?
Actually, I have a question for Dr. Moha. So I received a text from a friend who was saying basically, okay, my father runs a very successful F&B business, but he's very traditional, and I want to divest into modern financial instruments and especially cryptocurrencies. So how do you bridge those two, I wouldn't say time zones, but how do you bridge those two generations?
Yes. So in that case, there is a generational gap in terms of perception, in terms of hopes, fears, and dreams, right? So the younger generations, they are more familiar. They are more, I would say, they are able to accept new types of asset classes or investments. I think the key here is communication. And if there is an issue communicating with your own parent or father, then it may be a good idea to bring in a third person, right? Perhaps someone that can be trusted, a trusted financial advisor, for example, or a trusted investment advisor that could explain. Because sometimes, even being a parent, being a father myself, um, we always think that we are right, right? Being a father, but there is a time for us also to be open and to allow our child or children to start to own up and to make decisions, especially when it comes to the business. So this is again a matter with regards to succession planning and so on. And I think that's where we need to bring together the two generations, even between father and son or father and daughter, to strengthen trust and communication. And if there is such trust and communication, then I think the financial and investment strategies can be discussed and can lead towards better decisions for the family. Thanks, Azim, for the question.
My pleasure. It's a friend, tapi
And
he
thank
is not
and
able to attend today.
thank the friend as well.
Will do,
Oh,
will do.
okay.
Right. We have another question just came in for Encik Azim. What is blockchain technology and what gives crypto a value? I want to invest but not sure if to do crypto or equity funding. This is from Encik Sabri Saleh.
Sam, there's a
Yeah, I know. Yeah, let's arm wrestle and yeah.
see who wins.
Yeah.
Yes, Sabri Saleh, right? Okay, thank you for the question. Okay, all right, okay. Blockchain technology is basically a network. Okay, think of it as this game we used to play back then when we were in school, telephone karat, where you would sit in a line and the person right at the back would relay information to the person in the front. And usually the person in the front would get a piece of information that is completely off the charts or completely mengarut, as they say. Similar to that in terms of relay of information, except that the information is accurate and everybody in that line gets the same information. So you have a network where you have nodes or you have users, and a transaction will be validated or a piece of information will be confirmed by every single person on that node. So say, for example, if you have blockchain, for example, you've got 1 million users, and then I make a transaction with Sam, right? So I transfer to him 0.001 Bitcoin. This transaction is not just between me and him. Traditionally, it will go through a third party. It can be through a bank, it can be through a logbook, it can be through an Excel sheet. But what cryptocurrency does is it removes that, and the transaction between me and Sam will be verified or will be confirmed by the other 1 million users on the network. And that what makes it so valuable and so safe and so secure that you don't have risks of somebody coming in and changing it or somebody coming in and erasing it. This is blockchain technology. And surprise, surprise, it maybe is new to some, but a lot of corporate companies are already using it. For example, one of the cryptocurrencies on tokenized, Ethereum. So Ethereum has corporate companies such as DHL, Accenture, FedEx, they've got Morgan Chase, JP Morgan Chase. These are all corporate companies that use Ethereum's blockchain technology or blockchain network to store information and knowledge. And what gives crypto a value? Okay, so on a blockchain network, for example, Ethereum, you've got tokens, or you've got, how do you call it? You've got dia punya mata wang, you've got dia punya currency on the Ethereum network. So this currency is used to run, to operate, and to facilitate the network. So say, for example, if I would like to put a transaction on the Ethereum network. So you have miners who validate this transaction, and they are paid in Ethereum. So this is what gives it value. So you farm for it. When you farm for this Ethereum, basically what you're doing is you're doing validating works. You are doing, what do they call it? You are solving computational problems using your computer, and this results in a hash rate. So the more powerful your PC is, the higher your hash rate, the more transactions you can validate, the more you can earn. This is what it means. So what gives it value? Again, you look at what is the function of Ethereum, you look at the users of it, you look at which company adopts it, you look at the future plans, 5 years time down the road, 10 years down the road, who will be using it, what plans do they have to expand. So all these little details that go into adding a value into cryptocurrency, as well as the adoption rate. So in terms of which we would like to invest in, again, completely depends on your risk appetite. Depends on if you are looking for something if you're risk averse, if you're not risk averse, if you want something more solid, if you want something you can see grow right in front of your eyes, completely depends on each individual. So there's no right or wrong, there's no which is better, it's completely up to you.
Agreed, Azim, that's absolutely right.
Yeah. So some prefer nasi lemak, some prefer nasi goreng. Simple as that. Yes. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Azim Osman.
Come.
Yes, we have no further questions. Does any of the speakers would like to add anything?
I'd
No?
like to apologize for ending abruptly just now.
Right, I think
it was a very good, insightful sharing. Thank you for having me in this sharing session.
Thank
You're
you, Chairman. Yeah, I suppose, Siti, if I could leave something before we end, it's really, I always believe that the proof is in the pudding. Again, what Azim is doing in terms of running an exchange is something exciting. Not many Malaysians have been exposed to it. Now you can, since that tokenized also offering 15 points, I think it's a good time for anyone and everyone to try investing in some of those coins that's available in their platform. So proof is always in the pudding. Similar with us at Equity Crowdfunding. Again, high risk, very high risk, I would say, but the returns can also be very handsome. We've seen a couple of companies who have managed to return money, not just the money, but also returns on their investments after 2 years. So My Cash Online is one company. One other company, Rego Solar, will be going for public listing in June. So those are the great stories. Some companies have actually returned, at least on paper, many folds or many X's in their investments from their investors. So the point is, look at what's being offered. One thing which I think Azim and I would want to say is that both of our companies have been registered with the SC. We ourselves had to undergo due diligence and compliance before we are given the approval to actually run what we do right now. So after that, it's really about what's your risk appetite, and then you choose which product that you want to invest in. Yeah. So I will probably leave that for our discussion.
I'd like to attest to what Sam says just now, what Sam said just now, because BinaPavo is also planning to go for equity crowdfunding. We are going for our campaign. Look out for us. Probably we'll go live in June, hopefully, inshallah. And what I want to say is that BinaPavo went through a uh, very systematic and structured process of due diligence by Pitch in order to prepare us for the campaign. So I think in that sense, Pitch is really making sure that investors are protected and the issue.
Sorry, Dr. Moha and everyone in the team, maybe this is slightly outside of the topic, but I would want to know the difference of this approach as compared to crowdfunding or equity funding, because one of my close associate, who is my cousin, they started off a social enterprise called BGBG Initiative, and as they started, they managed to sell an idea and came up with a crowdfunding strategy, and they managed to raise about almost 2 million ringgit from an idea that hasn't even been implemented. But of course, they managed to give assurance to the investors and managed to give them a vision and mission of what they're doing and how is it going to be impactful in the near future. So I just wanted to clarify that if there is any difference of criteria and how they actually evaluate and assess would be similar, or it's actually two different things.
Yeah. Okay, Chairman, maybe I'll try to answer that. So I'm quite familiar with the BGBG people. Again, great innovative people behind that company. They also have a sister company called Mereka. If you're also familiar with them. So Mereka actually raised money on Pitchin. They raised 1.6 million on Pitchin way back in 2017, 2018, if I can recall. So they were offering equity in exchange for the investment that people put into the company. With regards to BGBG, I'm not sure whether they raised money through an equity crowdfunding platform in Malaysia. I doubt they did.
Sorry to interrupt, but yes, you are right. Their subsidiary or their co-sister company, which is Mereka, is the one that did the crowdfunding. Sorry, you are right. It's under BGBG, but it's under a different orang kata cabang altogether lah. Because I think social enterprise also can't be, having those kind of arrangement of crowdfunding and selling ideas. So yeah, it is Mereka Square, they call it in Publica. They are the one who managed to do the crowdfunding. Betul.
So they raised 1.6 million on Pitchin from I think 100 plus investors. It was quite good, especially for a social enterprise company, right? Again, social enterprise, I don't know whether rightly or wrongly, they always been seen as not not focusing on being a profitable company, which I don't believe Mereka is. Mereka objective is to become a profitable company. But what they actually did was that they raised money, they gave equity away to investors, and also they promised within, I forgot the number of years, investors could actually redeem and also make at least 15% out of their investment from Mereka. So if I recall, the deal was that if the investors want to get out, they could do so at year 3. So they will get back their money plus, if I'm not mistaken, 15% upside. So investors will obviously make money from their investment. So that was probably one of the first and only, not many social enterprise companies actually raise money on equity crowdfunding. For the simple reason, Amir, is that a lot of people think that social enterprise, they can't be profitable and therefore they are not investable.
I was super impressed that he managed to, basically when they pitch in, they're actually pitching their idea and their vision, right? So, and they managed to actually, get a crowdfunding of 1.6 million ringgit. It's pretty impactful lah, and quite admirable lah to be able to accomplish that.
I agree, Javed. In fact, I think that's really echoing what Prof. Moha mentioned, right? That a lot of people sometimes can, yes, they want to see the company, they want to see the idea and whatnot, but a lot of people are investing mainly because of the founders, right? Because they know that without the founders, all these ideas or plans will never be executed well. So if they believe in the founders, and this is what we saw in Mereka, what we saw in Sills Candy, right? Purely ideas, just a fancy PowerPoint deck, right? And they managed to raise tons of money, right? So again, and they've proven it. So even after they fundraise, you've seen the business growing. Those who don't know, you could actually go to Mereka. They actually have this large office in Publica, quite cool, to lepak there or to relax there. So yeah, so they're in Publica, doing great stuff. Yep.
Right, thank you, Cik Ami Malik, for your questions. Time flies, and I'm sorry that we have to end this session. Is there any more to add, Dr. Mohar?
No more. I think we have had a very good session, very productive, very fruitful. We hope that what has been discussed tonight is beneficial to everyone. And as far as BinaPavo is concerned, so we are committed to continue this education and providing information to our people, so that we can be, we can have a balanced life, maintaining all the types of health, emotional, mental, spiritual, financial, and physical health being balanced. Thank you very much, Siti.
Right, we have a last question for Encik Sam Shafi'i.
All right. Okay. One for the road. Okay.
Yes. I have another question. Could you share the profile of the investors? Majority of them are professionals or business owners.
Right. So in terms of the investors, Sabri, yes, you are right. Majority of them overwhelmingly are professionals. So these are people who work in corporate. They earn what we call good salary, and they're now using some of that salary to then invest, or money which they save to invest in companies on pitching. In terms of the division between, say, high net worth investors and retail investors, in terms of number of investors, 55% are retail investors. And what I like about those retail investors is that these are young professionals, the millennials. They understand how equity crowdfunding work. They would love to invest in the next Grab. They want to invest in the next unicorn, right? So what they're doing is that they're hoping that their small investment in, say, in kaki tangan would probably be translated in a few years' time to a big chunk of money. So retail investors are the majority in terms of numbers. However, in every crowdfunding campaign that we see, even though the numbers are dominated by the retail guys, but it is the high net worth guys that pulls in the big dollars. Yeah. So for example, if someone were to invest $1 million, it's quite normal for us to see 80% of those investors are retail people. But if we flip it in terms of the amount or the Ringgit Malaysia amount, that 80% of that 1 million or the 800,000 ringgit is probably be done by that 20% of high net worth, right? Whereas the retail guys only put in that 20% of that 1 million. So it's just quite normal. And it's quite consistent in terms of what we see, not just in Malaysia, but also outside of Malaysia. Retail guys come in, they provide the crowd, they provide the virality of it, they shout about their investments, whereas the high net worth guys, they're very quiet, they just sign their checks, and then they will then help the company in terms of strategy and whatnot, whereas retail guys are there to sort of like support the companies from outside by sharing to their friends and other people about what the company does, so that those other people would then either buy or even use their product. So that's what we see normally happening with companies that are fundraising on equity crowdfunding.
Right. Thank you very much, Sam.
Thank you.
Right. We have now come to the end of the session. To those participants who has more questions, please email to us and we will answer your questions. And thank you very much, our guest speakers, for making the webinar a successful one tonight. I'm sure the participants are greatly benefited from all the presentation that you give. And I would like to share that this is a next gen webinar series brought to you by Space, Learning Space, and initiative by BinaPavo. So with that, thank you so much and good night, everyone. Have a good rest.
Night.
Thank you.
Thanks.